Was this a bad call by VCarb, and does this set up a fierce rivalry between teammates? If so, does it add tension between them if the two are in position for one of them to get points? Kobe, what do you think?
Hey, Alex, and let me start off by saying that Visa Cash App RB is one of the most strangest names I've ever seen from a Formula One team. I still can't believe that VCarb is actually a thing, and I didn't really understand this call that this team made, especially when there are no points in the line. So like if you're gonna swap position like this and there's like no points, like what are you doing? Yeah, and we don't need to go into all this team order stuff, because I think all of our viewers know how we feel about team orders and motorsports. I'm sure everybody else, or most of everybody, probably feel the exact same way. But everyone who knows Yuki Tsunoda knows, that this is the type of reaction you get from Yuki, because he's very tense, and when things go wrong, Yuki he can explode and get very very angry. And I'm sure Visa Cash App RBs, and they're probably going to sit down the two drivers, Ricciardo and Tsunoda, to talk about this incident and make sure that they're going to be racing each other with respect, and doing whatever is best for the team, because you don't want to be one race in and already have tensions rising between the two drivers. Yeah, so for the sake of this team and this pairing working, this certainly has to be a bump in the road, and I'm sure that the team leaders at this organization are gonna have a sit down with them and make sure that nothing more will come of this.
The only thing I can think of is somebody of the team must have thought that Ricardo had enough pace to, somehow get, if not in the points, finish 11th or gain them a couple of spots at least. Obviously, that's the only reason that teams would make this switch in the first place. Um, but like Kobe mentioned, there's no points on the line once you get past 10th, and when you're a midfield team like we expect Visa Cash App RB to be this year, what are the chances that your final placement in the standings after 24 races, the longest calendar we've ever seen, is going to come down to a tie on points, and you're going to go on countback all the way to who has a 13th place or 14th place finish over one another? It's not like these guys are going to score 0 points all year, we don't think, at least. And then it becomes a situation where it's just a formality or technicality when it comes to who finishes 18th or 19th in points. We expect them to be a team that can score points here or there at the very least. So I don't see how letting a driver take a 13th place finish and have that in his countback bank, so to speak, is going to affect anything. So I really don't understand why the move was made in the first place. This is the team orders that we're talking about that we don't like. Obviously, when it's somebody that's multiple laps down, trying to give a push to a teammate in a NASCAR race. I think that doesn't come anywhere close to actually swapping positions and crossing the line without giving the position back. We had that controversy with Max Verstappen at Brazil a couple of years ago, well after he'd already clinched the championship. So I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of this, and I think it like we mentioned, it didn't really have much of a chance at yielding anything beneficial for the team, and at worst, it resulted in conflicts between their two drivers at the first race of the year ahead of the longest calendar we've ever seen. So I think it would be very wise for the team to sit down this week and go over the incident and make sure all the tension is cleared, or much of the tension is cleared at the very least. I don't know if it's going to be possible with how fierce those things got at the end of the race this weekend, but certainly not a great start to the year for this new V-Carb outfit here.
Now, how massive would this situation have become if the two had crashed after the race there when Yuki locked up his tires? What do you guys think about that scenario?
Well, given that it's part of the Red Bull family, I think Liam Lawson might have been getting a phone call. And I say that only half joking when I say that, because this team is absolutely this Red Bull family, if you will. Obviously, it's not the Red Bull senior team, but this whole program is known for being super ruthless with their drivers and not giving them another chance here. And this is a very serious matter. If they had taken each other out or damaged their cars, and you think of how many millions of dollars they could have caused in a repair bill for the team, and the short turnaround to Saudi Arabia this week, yeah, that would not have been very good. So thankfully, it didn't come to that. But with how upset Yuki Tsunoda was, he better be thankful that he didn't end up running into Daniel Ricciardo. I'm sure that was not his intention, but a lot of times when you're driving these cars, you can do something that isn't super intentional, but it can have very bad consequences. So thankfully that didn't happen, but it certainly had the possibility to end up leading in a situation like that. And again, that just further highlights why I think it's necessary for them to sit down as a team this weekend and clear the air.
Yeah, and I think Yuki Tsunoda is also on a much shorter leash than Daniel Ricciardo is right now. Given everything I already mentioned about how it's dealing with his temper and his attitude. I was actually just reading an article earlier in the week about Yuki Tsunoda's hot temper on the radio and his demeanor, and how Red Bull would be a little hesitant, to try to move him further along because of that, and especially with the team dynamic. So I think that it was a great thing for him, that this did not end in a crash and ban. I totally get what you're saying about half joking, that if this would have happened, that they would have been calling Liam Lawson to come in, because we know Red Bull is really ruthless. And as we saw last year, they didn't let Nick DeVries compete in his home Grand Prix, for crying out loud. And they couldn't even just they couldn't even let him just have that one race, instead of being like, we're gonna let you run your home Grand Prix and give you a send off. They couldn't even
after
do that.
Daniel Ricciardo got hurt. They still didn't let him come back to run his home race. I mean, yeah. And then Albon, got promoted, to the senior team, and Verstappen did after Kvyat had a rough couple of races. I mean, given Red Bull's history, you could not put it past them to say, we're going to make a mid-season change here. So yeah, I mean, like I said, I was half joking when I said that, because it is only the first race, but I think to your point, Kobe, Ricciardo's obviously a veteran. He's coming back to a racing family that he's been a part of for a long time and had a lot of success with. I think he's got a much longer leash of patience, so to speak, than Yuki Tsunoda, who's been with the team for a few years now, and to be quite frank, maybe hasn't taken the step forward in his performance that a team would have liked over the course of 3 seasons here. So, it certainly, let's be thankful the situation wasn't worse than it ended up being, but it's not a great start to the year.